Hey everybody, I hope you've had a fantastic Christmas and are getting ready for a good new year. And maybe you've had lots of great gifts. Maybe you've given some great gifts. And it got me thinking as I share this reflection today, the greatest gift that we receive, which is obviously Jesus. But I want to tell you about another gift I had. When I was 14, maybe 15 years old, I went on a school trip. And to get ready for the school trip, I went shopping in the fashion central of Ingomells, that is Fantasy Island. If you've never been, you're missing a trick. There's aftershave that burns your skin and knockoff t-shirts. And I bought this amazing t-shirt with the greatest message I could find. And as a young Christian boy, I think this would be a t-shirt that I would take with me and would speak of God's greatness and God's love. And so I arrive at this school trip with this new t-shirt from Ingomells, and I wear it and I reveal it to about 15 of my friends going on this trip, half of them boys, half of them girls. And as I reveal the message, God's gift, I was met with laughter. They didn't appreciate it. And in my head, I was thinking, well, this is true. I am God's gift. I am God's gift to everybody. And you are too. I was approaching it with faith, thinking that God has gifted something to us and we're God's gift. But obviously, it is a phrase that means something else. It was a phrase of arrogance that maybe thought I was the person to be like, I was the person to admire, that I was God's gift. And so it didn't land in the way that I thought it did. But it did make me laugh. And it did make me think on a serious level that you and I have received the greatest gift. We have received Jesus, and that we are actually called to be God's gift. And so I want to reflect on this passage with you this morning. This is Matthew chapter 2, verse 1 to 12. And this is after Jesus has been born and the Magi are about to visit Jesus. They travel across lands, and it will pick up in verse 1. It says this: After Jesus was born in Bethlehem in Judea, during the time of King Herod, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem and asked, "Where is the one who has been born to the King of the Jews?" Straight away, Herod gets his back up because he's the only king, and he plays along for a little bit, and he asks them more questions. And he says, "Tell me when you find this great king, because I want to worship him too." But we know from the story, from the nativity, he had ulterior motives. As we read on, it says, "Go and search carefully for the child." This is King Herod. And he says, "As soon as you find him, report to me so that I may go and worship him." After they'd heard the king, they went on their way, and the star they had seen when it rose went ahead of them until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they were overjoyed. On coming to the house, they saw the child with his mother Mary, and they bowed down and worshipped him. And then maybe you know this from the songs, but if you don't, this is what happened. They opened their treasures and they presented him with three gifts: the gift of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to go back to Herod, they returned to their country by another route. In that passage, Jesus receives three gifts: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. The first is gold, which represents the kingship of Jesus. It's his worth, it's his value. This gold represents the significance of his authority. And just as we receive Jesus, we get something of God's worth. The fact that he loved us so much, he sent his son for us. That speaks of God's love for us. It speaks of the worth placed on our lives, that you and I have intrinsic worth. And maybe as you reflect going to 2026, one of the things that God might speak to you about is the significant worth that you have to him, that he loves you so much that he would rescue you from sin and death. That is a gift of gold through Jesus. The second is frankincense. This is a gift that represents the glory of God. Frankincense was used in worship in the Old Testament, and it was used on the altar, and it would burn as a sweet-smelling scent, an offering to God. That you and I are to live lives that glorify God, that we have the gift of being able to worship and step into his presence, that we might have a life that has the same metaphorical sense as frankincense. It speaks of stepping in to a closeness with the Lord. And the third gift is myrrh. This represents the power and authority over death. Myrrh was used in burial, and it was a scent that would overpower the stench of death. And for Jesus, it represents his victory over death. And for you and I, as we receive Jesus, that is also one of the greatest gifts, that we have overcome death through the power of Christ. And so what I want you to reflect on is just those three aspects, and maybe ask these questions as you step into 2026. First, where do you need to speak to yourself and recognize the worth that God has placed in you? Where is the gold within you? The fact that the Lord loves you, he places value upon you. Maybe you need to explore finding your worth in the presence of God. The second is, how might embracing the love of God lead you into the place of worship? How might you glorify God as you step into this new year? And the third is, who in your life needs to receive the gift of God, the power over death, the greatest gift of the gospel, knowing Jesus and finding that victory? You've received that. How might you offer that same gift to somebody else? So in a sense, I started with a cheesy t-shirt, and maybe I'll go out and buy you all the same t-shirt from Ingermel's, but you are God's gift. You have received God's gift. He has got it to you. He is working it in you, and he's going to work something through you as you step into 2026. So maybe as you think about those three things, my prayer is that you will find something significant in the gift of God for your life. Bless you. Have an amazing holiday, and we'll see you in January.